So now we are in Substance Painter. Let's create a new document and import our model. So I'm going to select this OBJ I exported and keep the resolution to 2048 and hit OK. Now go to texture set settings and in the bake mesh map, deselect your ID and thickness. We won't be using those two. Select the output size to 2K and also use low poly mesh as high poly mesh. And select the anti-aliasing 4x4 and hit bake selected texture. Now that our mesh maps are baked, so hit OK and go to the layers. Delete this empty layer and in the materials select this wood American cherry and drop it in the layers. Now go to UV projection and change it to triplanar. And also change the scale to 4. Now go to this wood roughness and change it to 0.6. And also the wood color to something more darker. Now go to your project. I'm using these textures which you can download from the link in the description. So select this albedo and the normal and drop it in your project and define them as texture. Now I'm going to take a new fill layer and disable all the layers except the color and drop this color in my base color. Change the projection to triplanar and scale to 2 and also give it a rotation of 90 degrees. Maybe change the scale to 3. Rename this as wood variation. Now add a new filter. I'm going to take the contrast and luminosity, increase the contrast to 0.1 or 0.2 and luminosity to minus 0.16, and also I'm going to decrease the opacity of this one to 70. Let's go back to this wood American cherry and disable the height. Change it to 60. I'm going to take another texture which is going to be this wood plank and import this in my project. And define them as texture, then import to current session. Let's take another layer and again disable everything except color. Put this base color into the base and also change the projection to triplanar and rotate to 90 degrees. Now let's increase the scale to 2. And again I'm going to take a filter, contrast and luminosity, increase the contrast a little bit and decrease the luminosity. Again decrease the opacity of this. Keep the opacity to 35. Rename this as wood color correction. Let's take a new fill layer and disable everything except roughness. Increase the roughness to 1 and add a black mask. In this black mask, I'm going to take a paint and let's add some fingerprint on this table. So go to your alphas and look for some fingerprints like this. Now add them on the top like this. You can decrease the scale also. And rotate them a little bit. To make it look like more dusty. Rename this as prints. Now go to the paint and decrease the opacity a little bit to 70. Now go back to project and I'm going to take another texture and only the normal of this one. Define it as texture and import your current session. Again, take a new fill layer and this time I'm disabling every layer except normal and put it in the normal. Change the projection to triplanar and rotate it to 90. Also change the scale to 2 like this. Now rename this as normal detail. Again, add a black mask and add a paint. Go to the polygon fill and in the object mode select this. Now go to the normal detail and enable the roughness. Increase the roughness to 0.6. Now go back to your normal layer and right click on it, add a level. Go to the base color and change it to normal. Now change the shadow and the midtone a little bit, 0.42 and 0.8. Now let's take a new fill layer and disable metal, normal and height. Increase the roughness and change the base color to something more dusty. And go to your smart mask and you'll see this dirt cavity and drop it in your fill layer. Now you'll see some dirt in your cavities. Go to your fill layer and change the projection to triplanar. And now go to your black mask and go to mask builder. You can increase the level a little bit and also the contrast. And drop the opacity a little bit to 50. Now rename this as dirt and take a new fill layer and rename this as paint. Change the metal roughness, normal and height. Change it to something more darker like this. Now take a black mask and add a paint. And on the top of this paint layer, right click and add a filter. Go to this filter and search for blur and select this blur directional. Now go to the paint layer and take any brush, or better go to the alpha and take this alpha. Change the rotation to 0 and flow to 50 and also opacity to 75. And paint in these cavities like this. Also change the spacing to 5. Go to the blur directional and increase the value, and also change the angle to 90 and blur intensity to 2 or maybe 1. Go to paint and start painting. You can also decrease the opacity of this paint to 40. Now go to your dirt and change its color, something like this, and also change the opacity to 30. Now go back to your paint and take something else and go to brushes, take this dirt and start painting like this on the sides. Now press X to disable the paint and start erasing some of it randomly. Also decrease the opacity to 40. Now let's take another fill layer and disable color, metal and normal. Increase the roughness and decrease the height to -0.2. Again I'm going to rename this as scratches. And take a black mask. In this black mask add a fill. Go to grayscale and search for scratches. And select this grunge scratch. Change the projection to triplanar and decrease the balance to 0.3 and turn down the opacity for this to 40 or maybe 25. So our table texturing is done. Let's export these textures. Go to File and click on Export. Go to this output template and select your template. I'm going to use Arnold to render this, so select this Arnold and select your folder where you want to export the textures. And you can take the file type anything you want. I'm going to take this TIFF and size to 4K. Also change the padding to dilation plus transparent and hit export. So our textures are exported, and that's it for today. If you like this video, then subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Till then, thank you for watching.